Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Good evening. Happy Monday.
It certainly is a happy Monday. I see, Ted, you're going for a new look there with the
The screen was working perfectly until this started, so I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to pop out and pop back in because my video is acting a little funny.
For those of you listening to us on the podcasting platforms, the screen just turned purple right as we started. It's the joys of live episodes. All kinds of strange things happen. These things don't happen backstage. They happen right when you go live. But he'll be joining us here in just a second. But certainly, as you can see already, this is not your everyday podcast. No, we do things a little differently here on the 30-Minute Hour, and I don't think we properly prepared our guest for the fact that this isn't your everyday podcast, but I think he's starting to grasp that. So yeah, we do things a little differently. You can watch us on our Facebook channel, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. All three are titled The 30-Minute Hour. You can check us out live. Again, you can go back and listen on an Apple Podcast, Spotify, and any of those other podcasting platforms where you like to consume content. And don't forget, every Monday we do the Thank God It's Monday. Today we talked about don't believe everything you think. And a lot of times and this, Dr. Vic, this is like right up your alley. Matter of fact, we said that this morning. A lot of times we overanalyze the worst case scenario, and most of the time the worst case scenario never happens. So that impacts how you pursue your week. So definitely go back and watch that episode of Thank God It's Monday. But definitely, yeah, we definitely looking forward to our guest who's going to share some key things. The key to with the theme for our show, this episode is the secret to achieving effortless success. That's the theme for our show today. The secret to achieving effortless success. So I'll go ahead and introduce our guest. I know Ted should be popping back on any minute. I know he was having some technical issues. So our guest, he's a former certified pediatric chiropractor who's become a business mindset coach. He is the author of 3 books, with his most recent being Decoding The Matrix, which has come out this past May. He's the creator and owner of the Mindful Experiment podcast, which has been ranked in the top 1% globally on Listen Notes. That's a fantastic accomplishment. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Dr. Vic Manzo.
Thank you so much, brother, for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to have you on. It's truly an honor to have you on the show. And we're excited to have Ted Fells back.
Good to be back. It's good to be back.
So Ted, you'll be happy to know I did just enough tap dancing to wait for you to get back on.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it.
Because, the show is not the same without the super CEO. We have to make sure he's on here as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Did you sing?
That was next.
I know that was next, Vic. Once you start running out of filler material, just start singing.
I think we're all glad that you came on, Ted, because that was next on my list here.
Oh, man.
But no, so we just introduced Dr. Vic Manzo. He was a chiropractor. He's now a mindset coach. So just curious, Dr. Vic, what was it that inspired you to make this? This isn't a normal step that chiropractors take, right? So what was it that inspired you to make this transition?
I'm always somebody who looks at things and want to, if something's not, if we can go deeper or there's something easier or find a deeper truth into something, that I'm like, I want to be all in. And so that kind of led me as being a pediatric chiropractor. But from going to that to business coaching and all that I do, I was tired of the advice that was being told to entrepreneurs. I mean, I was listening to a ton of it, reading it in books, listening to different attributes. And you always hear the same thing. It's, you got to grind, you have to hustle, put in the hard work. You got to sacrifice time, money, energy, health. You have to do all these things in order to get to a level of success. And you just continue to go chase your dreams, go out there, do, all this different stuff. And that's the stuff that's praised. But that's not how the universe works. That's not how your body works. That's not how nature works. And I got to a point in my career where I tested it out. I tested all these things and I had great success. And then I was like, you know what? Entrepreneurs need to know this. So I started coaching, and it was about 3 years ago. I did it as a little bit of a side thing, took on some clients and so forth, saw great results, and, they were leading more fulfilled lives. Not everybody wants to make a ton of money. Some people just want to make money enough to cover things and put money aside for the future, but they want to live more fulfilled. I was helping people make more money too, though. Got to a point where I was sharing with you guys before, I moved from Chicago to Knoxville last year in December. That's when I ended up closing my business down, not because it wasn't doing well. I had one of the biggest pediatric offices in Illinois. It was just hard to sell. The climate wasn't great up there to try to sell a business at the time with COVID and everything. But my wife and I decided to move to Knoxville, and we closed that business down, and I went full-time into coaching this year, and I've been loving every moment of it.
That's awesome. Now, Dr. Vic, you strike me as this person who was just always, you just had that state of mind, right? You just were just calm. You didn't get anxious, and you didn't have these mental fits that a lot of us entrepreneurs have. Was that the case? Were you just always in this right state of mind?
Oh yeah, I live like that every day. No, if you could see me, I'm shaking my head. No, not at all. I'm human. I'm better as I've gotten older. I'm like wine. Just get better with age. It's one of those things where I don't get stuck in things like I used to. I don't my mind goes so fast that I can go down a dark hole or go down a negative downward spiral really fast. As I've gotten older, I've learned to use tools to get me out of there. How do I balance my nervous system? How do I get my mind back to being on track? It's okay to be human. A lot of times you get in positive psychology or positive thinking. Don't think the negative thoughts. Well, that's resistance. You're only going to create more of that stuff down the road because you're resisting it. Instead, be human, right? I'll be human. My wife is great for this. She's my person I'll go to, and I can share what my worries are, what my fears are, and she just listens. She's phenomenal at that. And then from there, sometimes she'll give me a piece of advice, or sometimes I'll be like, hey, that's all I needed. I'm feeling, I got that out. Now I can go do what I need to do. Maybe go jump in 40-degree water, maybe go meditate, breath work, whatever that may be. Get my nervous system center as possible. And then I can go ahead and move forward. Because a lot of times when we get, as entrepreneurs, we get kind of, when we, things, whatever you want to call it, crap hits the fan or whatever that may be, we let that overtake us, or sometimes fear kicks in. And then we're making decisions off fear, which you don't realize you're creating a cycle of continuing to have more things to fear about down the road because of where our energy is coming from. So that's why it's really critically important to center. But yeah, no, I'm not. I'm human, and I'm very transparent. I teach this stuff, but I'm also human too. So I just still go through it. The only difference is it doesn't last long like it used to.
No, that's good to know. So if you could go back and talk to that version of yourself that was just out of chiropractor school, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to yourself?
Patience. Know that everything's always working out for your greatest good. And just know to focus. Don't have to worry about the do's. Just be. Literally just focus on my energy and my vibe every single day. And if I master that, then everything will be taken care of. And I wish I knew that at 26 when I came out of chiropractic school. I wish I knew that at 16 years old. That would have changed the ball. But that's part of life, right? We learn when we need to learn.
Yeah, it was interesting. Was it a thing where you felt like you were behind schedule, or that you needed to really push?
I'm that type A driver personality, so it's always about pushing, right? If someone says this is how long it takes to get there, I'm going to do it in half that time. And I put all this immense pressure, all this stress. And then I'm always looking, back then I was always looking at the doing, right? What do I need to do? How do I have to do this? I want to make sure I do everything right. I'm going to put all my energy and everything. So I make sure I achieve that. And I don't want to mess it up any way, shape, or form. And that's where my framework was back then in that process.
So it's interesting. So this morning on our show, thank God it's Monday, we were talking about this idea that a lot of times we go through this worst case scenario, right? And you say, oh well, what if this happens? What if that happens? It just puts you in a negative state, right? You're afraid and you dread it because you start going, hey, I'm going to lose the business. Then before you know it, I'm going to live under a bridge, and before you know it, and nothing's really happened. Right. So what advice do you give for entrepreneurs, or do you have for entrepreneurs that struggle with that whole imagining the worst case scenario problem?
Oh yeah, we all went through COVID, right? And so I had entrepreneurs, 3 of them specifically, in they all worked in Chicago area. Their businesses got shut down. They could no longer work until the government allowed, and that was devastating. Imagine the fear. But you got to ask, why is the fear coming in? Let's learn from this, right? A lot of times some people just go with emotions, and we don't know. We go through this whole negative downward spiral, and you got to understand that downward spiral. That thinking is limited beliefs. It's a conditioning of our mind in some way. So it's the things we fear that we have to work on to heal from and transcend that's also coming up, because that's the stuff we have to clear out, that's holding us back from when things were going fine and you were hitting ceilings, because we all have a ceiling. Even when you break through one ceiling, you got another ceiling that's above that. And it's one of those things where those are the kind of concepts to hold back. And a lot of times when COVID hit and those were happening to some of my clients, I would tell them, just slow down, just take a breath. Let's just take a breather. Let's reset here for a second. Remember, what energy, everything happens through you. I share it, and then I try to give social proof, right? Or something in the past that has happened. I'll either ask questions to find out about what happened in their life through hard times that didn't happen, went different route. But the best one I like to share is the Great Depression. There was a lot of millionaires that got created during the Great Depression. You look at the last recession, there was a lot of people that made money there. You look at what happened in COVID, and I share, this is the greatest time an opportunity for you to grow something massively in some way, shape, or form. Because when there's a lot of uncertainty, if you put your energy in the right direction, it can really excel for you in a lot of different ways. And if you notice, there was, I know in the online space, in the coaching industry during COVID blew up like crazy during that process. So it's one of those things where, if you can just don't let that consume you in some way, shape, or form. And there's techniques you can do. But I'm not only about just trying to calm a symptom. I also like to get to that root cause of, let's talk about why that shows up, and why do you think the worst? Why are you going down so far down that rabbit hole? Maybe there's a fear of failure there, or maybe there's that you feel you have a lack of self-worth, that your destiny and what you create for yourself is actually what you can do, rather than you think that what's the environment's going on, right? You look at the fears now in the stock market, and a total crash is going to come, and all this stuff and all these stories. And I tell my clients, like, who cares if it does or doesn't? Well, man, I'm not prepared. If you're prepared or you're not prepared, but if you give into the fear, you're going to become part of that. But you can see things in a different perspective and have a different experience like others. I mean, we've seen it in the past, and it's something that continues to happen.
No, I think that's great, and hopefully our entrepreneurs who watch us and follow us are paying close attention to that. So you're the president and CEO of Empower Your Reality. So who is your typical client, and how do you help them?
Yeah, I mean, it's entrepreneurs, and what I'm helping them with is how to create their dream life effortlessly, or if there's a pain and struggle challenge that they just can't oversee, that they're trying to solve, but it keeps coming up, and they just can't. They've done a lot of things, and maybe they've done other coaching, they've done workshops, they've done classes, programs, you name it, and they still can't break that barrier. Or it's somebody who says, "Hey, I want to create my dream life, and I want to do it faster than what I think I can do." Those are the clients I work with, but I share in a way that's different than standard business advice. And you get that vibe off me pretty quick, because there's a lot of inner work. You have to understand that our inner world is what creates our outer world. And that's a lot of the work I do. If you're not seeing your outer world be what you want, there's an inner world problem you have to focus on, not a doing. Because when we do, we're looking outside the world. We're putting our energy out there. And instead, it's what's going on within that we have to solve.
No, I think that's a lot of times we look for an external solution to an internal problem, right? We're looking outside,
100%.
but what we need is to really look in house. Um, I know you deal with different beliefs and habits that hold people back. Like with the entrepreneurs you work with, what are some of the more common limiting beliefs or habits that you see that are holding entrepreneurs back?
A lack of self worth is a big one.
Hmm.
Maybe because that's what I had. They say sometimes you always attract a lot of what you are, because you can help them the most. But lack of self worth is one of them. But a lot of limiting beliefs when it comes to money. And that can be like, something like money grows on trees. You've heard that one before. Or money attracts, money goes to money, or money's the root, money's the root of all evil. And these different limiting beliefs, it depends on the individual. It's usually some of those are in there because a lot of times people will come to me like I feel like I'm a chiropractor in the mindset world and coaching because I get clients sometimes will be like, I've tried everything, nothing works. I don't know what else to do. You came up and this is what I heard in chiropractic. I've done everything. I've done everything you could possibly imagine, and this isn't working. And then all of a sudden, a month or two later, they're like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And that's just like pretty interesting how that works. But it's really, those I would say are the biggest ones. I mean, there's other ones too, but the common theme I see a lot of is a lack of self-worth, believing and knowing that you can achieve your dream and you can have it any way you like. I'm saying any way you like. I have a quote I live by and I share it. I said, there's no rules in life except the ones you create. And I back that up with quantum physics, neuroscience, and some good, fun, old spiritual truths, ancient wisdom. And it's one of those things where if you can really understand how powerful you really are and understand your worth, and you can have anything you want in your life that you desire. And it's just knowing that you are that. A lot of times when we hit a lean month, or we hit some struggles, let's say you started a new business and you're just not seeing the turnaround that you like to see and stuff like that. The reason why it's stressing you is not because you're not getting the result. It's because you have a lack of self-worth that you're worthy of achieving that. Does that make sense?
Hmm. No, it does. It makes total sense. So if someone comes to you and they've got a self-worth issue that you have to get underneath and resolve, typically, how long does it take you to resolve something like that with someone?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. It depends how long it's been there and the conditioning behind it. You can tell somebody your beliefs you can change on an instant. And some people will be like, great. And then some other people will be like, well, that's great, but the mind kicks in and goes, yeah, but we've been conditioned like this all our life. Look here, look at here, look at here, look at here, look at here. This is what has been happening, right? Subconscious comes in and keeps replaying that tape underground, or unconsciously, so you don't even know. So it varies on an individual. I wouldn't say it's a 1 month process, a 3 month. I could tell you someone who had it taken care of and changed in 2 weeks. I know I had clients that have taken over 9.5 months. It varies on the individual and where they are. And it's just part of that process. The longer it's been, the more resistance you have to it, the more that you're allowing this to hold you back. It's going to play a role on you in some way, shape, or form. But usually, if I had to average it out, it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 months on average. But like I said, there's a range to it.
And the self-worth thing is so important because it's almost like a thermostat, right? If even if they start having success, let's say they land a big client, they'll sabotage themselves at some point if they don't address that fundamental issue. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh yeah, I mean, I lived that. I was
Hmm.
my thing was lack of self worth, and I was a self sabotager. So things could be going great for me. I can hit a record month, and in the back of my mind, I'm going, yeah, but how long is this going to last? Man, what do I need to do now to keep this going? Oh man, I don't want. I love this. I want to, and all I'm doing is first, I'm not embracing the moment, not being grateful for what I have, and then on top of it, I'm sabotaging the whole energy movement that I had going forward in the first place. So yeah, it's a total. I have clients that'll do that. I have clients just recently that have been breaking records in their business, and some of them have been in business for 19, 20, 22 years, and they never hit that mark, and all of a sudden they're doing it now, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, how do I keep this going? Man, I want to make sure I keep. And I'm like, don't stop. Don't even say those words. They're like, why? I'm like, because you're creating resistance, and resistance is what you resist is going to persist. So if you're sitting there saying, man, how can I keep this going? You're already in a state of lack of mind. You're in a state of lack mindset or scarcity mindset. This is going to last forever for you. Now you're going to stop that momentum of what you had. Instead, take a step back, be grateful, enjoy the moment. And then I work on vibe and energy and all these other things to get them to be in that place of creating that momentum to keep things moving forward.
Here's what I've had coaching clients say to me before in that same scenario you mentioned, right? Things are going well, it's just rolling. They'll say, Eric, I'm just waiting on the other shoe to drop.
I know. I hear you on that one. It's one of the things. I mean, life is ebb and flow, right? In business, you look at how the world is, our financial structures, our systems. We always want to see things going up. The moment something pulls back, oh my goodness, everyone goes into full panic. But pullbacks are not a bad thing. It has to happen. It's a good reset. Even in your business, you have lean months and strong months. And the lean months are there to, reevaluate things, help to learn something new of what you have to work through. There's a lot of reasons why those things happen. Life is all about ups and downs. But when someone's waiting for that moment to happen, they're not being in the present moment and appreciating where they are. They're not learning what created that. A lot of times when my clients hit like records in something, or they have this huge thing that happens, because it's not always money. Sometimes it's a relationship. Sometimes it's their health with it included, all these things. And it's one of those things where they will go ahead and be like, I'll tell them, what is the feeling that you're feeling? What is it that's showing up that you're feeling inside yourself? Where does it show up in your body? And what I'm trying to do is get them to be used to that feeling, because that's themselves being in alignment. You see, we get into alignment with our vision, our purpose, and what we want to create on our life. And then all of a sudden, when you're in pure alignment, you have all this massive energy and focus going into a certain point, like a laser. It's easy to attract it into your life. So then you have it, and then it's here. And then all of a sudden you get caught up into it. And then you lose focus, or something comes up, or you let your guard down, you get comfortable. I see that often. And then all of a sudden it's like 2, 3, 4, 6 months down the road, they're like, man, I don't know why my business isn't where it is anymore. I'm back here, or it's slowing down. And it's like, remember when I talk about that feeling? Let's go back to the feeling, because I got lost. Your focus went somewhere else. And we just got to recenter and regroup and get back to that present moment.
Oh, great comments. Ted?
Yeah, I think it's just a protective mechanism, right? If I just kind of prepare myself to, I don't want to say prepare for the thought of failure, right? I think it's kind of protective mechanism, right? So it's not gonna be a letdown if I've already found a way to let myself down.
No, 100%.
Great comment. Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we have to address these mindset issues. And one of the mistakes I made earlier in my coaching career, I would focus on the numbers and the results, and I would just blow by like the limiting belief issue that was popping up, and the self-worth, and they just wouldn't move. And so now I know, as soon as I hear it, we've got to stop. We've got to deal with this. So one of the things, you can speak to this, I find if you're dealing with a limiting belief, it helps to provide counter examples, like somebody like, you can't make money in this area. The people just don't have the money. But if you find like counter examples of people who are making money in a similar area, that helps to overcome that limiting belief. Share your thoughts on that.
Oh, 100%. I love this one, because I just had a client this morning I was talking to, a potential, and 56. And he's like, I should already had my life together. I should have had this. I should have been this point, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, you're telling me all the conditioning of the world, but I want to hear what matters to you. And he's just like, well, yeah, I know that that's the conditioning of the world. But I'm like, yeah, but that's the conditioning of what you think the world should be. But what's your concern? So we're going back and forth. And I said, you have a belief that you think that you're too old and you shouldn't be starting a career or starting to branch out and start a whole new thing, a whole new identity of who you are. I said, man, you ever hear that guy named Colonel Sanders, the guy who created that KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken? And he's like, yeah, I don't know the story behind him, but I know KFC. I said, yeah, he started at 65 and he got 100 and some odd no's. I think it was 106 or 109, whatever that is. And because what he did is, I don't know if you guys know the story about him, but he created that recipe, the chicken, and he went out to restaurants to try to get to sell the recipe to them, and he get a percentage, and 100 and some odd no's later. I go, but you know what? He never stopped, because he had a vision. He was inspired. He knew, he saw the long-term game. This is some of the stuff I talk a lot about in my coaching. And all of a sudden, look what happened. Now KFC, I don't know where it is now, but I know like 10, 15 years ago when I was in business school, it was one of the top franchises. And I know it was continuing that way into early 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But I was like, look at that. So I love using counters, or because you want to challenge it. And your mind needs to know that, because even in your own life, I do this with people's own life. Like if they say, well, I can't do this. Well, you've had that happen before. Wow. And then I'm like, let's backtrack. Come on. It happened somewhere in your life. It's just not happening in the part of your life that you want to have happen to. And all of a sudden they'll go, oh my God, yeah, I had that happen there. There you go. Tie it to that. Now all of a sudden, and then if they can't figure that out, that's when I'll use other examples. Okay, well, if they can't do it, if someone else can do it, that means you can do it too. And it's not, and there's quantum physics to support that. I mean, look at the 4-minute mile. That was considered impossible for how long, right? Roger Bannister comes around, he breaks it. Now there's high schoolers doing it. One person can do it. It opens the door to create that barrier. It collapses the wave of what was the original. If you want to know some of the quantum physics, it collapses the wave of what was existing as truth. Once that collapses, it opens the door for another one. And that's when the whole 4-minute mile became a reality. And it's the same thing with anyone in life with any counter argument to do that. It collapses that identity of what they think is real if they stop giving power to it, and allows them then to create a whole new aspect that they get to dictate what that means for them.
No, that's a powerful point. If someone else can do it, you can do it too. That proves that it's doable, right? I mean, you mentioned the 4-minute mile. People in high school are breaking the 4-minute mile now. And this is something that everybody said couldn't be done until one person did it. So hopefully, if you're watching and you're struggling with some of these beliefs, just really lean in and find some counter examples. Get in a network of people who are trying to go in the same direction as you, or someone who already has the results that you have. And that'll help you to move forward. Okay, so Dr. Vic, people are on the edge of their seat. They saw the title and the theme of this episode. They want to know, what is the secret to achieving effortless success?
This isn't going to be something really out there. It's not so formula. It's not that. It's really simple. I'm going to take you back to when you were 3-4 years old. Okay. And a 3-4-year-old, their imagination's at their peak. They're imagining life and just living it. They're being happy. They're vibrant. They're excited at the moment of whatever they're creating. And they're just living. They don't care what anybody else is saying. They're just focusing on what they do. And that's it. That's the secret to living effortlessly. And what that is, and I'll back it up with some science, quantum physics, universal laws. So universal law of the law of vibration states you can only experience in your life whatever you're vibrating at. When people hear the word vibration, it's the same as a frequency or the same as an energy level or consciousness level. These are many different terms that can be interchangeable. They're used. And this is kind of how the universal law works. And so when you want to, we've been taught and we've been conditioned for years, at least 100 plus years, that we have to do something in order to create success. We have to go outside ourselves and keep doing and doing and doing and doing. We have to think of the greatest new idea. We have to sit down and contemplate about it until it eventually comes. And we figure it out ourselves. We have to go and network like thousands and thousands of people until eventually we find that one person that creates an amazing partnership that helps you take your business to the next level, or whatever that may be. I can go on and on with these. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's not popular, not important to do, and I'm not taking away from that. But that's called the Newtonian world. That's basically means force energy to do something. I have to do something to create, to have something happen for me. I have to do this to make more money. I have to do this to do that. Well, there's another part of the world called the quantum world. And the quantum world is all about understanding the invisible world that creates our physical. In the quantum world, everything happens, it tracks to you. You're a magnet. You're an electromagnetic field. So those are some other terms I'm using here that are scientifically backed. And so when you have a thought and emotion, that's an electromagnetic field that you create when you keep pressing on that and focusing on it often enough. And so if you want to be a millionaire, it's not about what you do. I'm not saying actions are important, but hold on, let me get to the effortless part here. You have to be that vibration first. So you have to take from the physical of what you think is a millionaire in your essence of what you want to create, whatever that is, bring it into the present. You got to imagine this, right? Get into that imagination and go wild with it with no judgment. In that process, okay, when you start to do that, then all of a sudden you are going to start to get, when it comes to, if you need to take action, whatever that is, because action needs to be taken, it'll be something with, there's a law called a law-inspired action. The things that you need to, the ideas will come to you, the people, the circumstances, and situations. So the way I like to explain this is, how does success effortlessly look like? We all heard the story of David and Goliath, correct?
Yes.
Right? David took a stone, he throws it, knocks out Goliath. Okay. In the business world today, what we're told is you need to take every stone you could possibly find and keep throwing them, and eventually you'll hit that one and it'll be like, okay, yes, success hit. the law of inspired action, the law of vibration, and so forth. This is the whole David and Goliath story. David took action at the right moment when he was inspired to do that. He took a stone, he took it, and he just threw it, and he hit him right on the spot. So it's working smarter, not harder. We've been told this, but not a lot of us have been conditioned on this. And so it's one of those principles that when you understand that things are going to come to you, look at all the greatest minds. They don't go out seeking. They sit there and contemplate. Look at Google. Like Google's it's got it's somewhat successful, I would say. They allow their employees to take a moment. I think it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and they let them just go work on something and just go to imagine, have fun, and work on something that you love to do. Right? It's imagination. It's getting back into our mind. And this is all vision work. This is a lot of stuff I teach because vision is one of the most critical things, and using neuroscience or quantum physics and all these other sciences that support that to show that they work in that way. This is a game changer then, because now you don't have to think of the next thing. I wrote my 3 books without thinking about them. It came to me. I mean, my last one, Decoding the Matrix, I wrote, here I am moving to Knoxville, getting ready to, I'm closing a business down and my wife's pregnant. And yet something keeps telling me I need to write a book, and it would not leave me alone. It was like I was getting anxious over it. It's like I kept thinking about it, kept grabbing my attention. And I'm like, I'm not writing a book right now. This is not happening. I got way too much on my plate. And it kept bugging me. So I said, okay, fine, whatever. I keep thinking about it. Must mean I need to do this. So then I did what I had to do. And then 2 months later, I wrote the book less than 24 hours, not in a day time frame. That's how much working time I did total. And just happened. And that was it. That was the end of it. And that's kind of the principles of what I teach a lot of my clients. And that's what I did in my own life, in my own practice in chiropractic, because I was thinking of, what's the next thing, right? Just like when we're doing really well in business, what's the next thing? How do I hope this? What can I do? Instead of take a step back, and it's a different way of looking at life. In the Western world, this is very foreign, because in Eastern philosophies and especially with certain principles in certain religions, when you feel like you need to take force, take a step back and don't do anything. That's some of the advice. Just sit back and don't do anything and wait till you feel inspired to do it. And the beauty behind that is when you do follow inspired action, you actually get way more done in less time, and you're way more successful in that process also. So that's the background to how to create effortless success. Is you just focus on your vibe, get really high. This is joy, love, emotion, compassion. You get into imagination, and you really just hone in on that and just be in that moment. That's it. It's as simple as that, because you're going to raise your vibration. You start to create more attraction, and that vision and the things that you want to create in your life, they're going to come to you. The idea, the circumstances, situations, and the people. And I can share stories of my own and clients of my own of some crazy stories that came out of nowhere that helped them achieve their goals and visions in such a short time.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you're saying it's not about pressing and striving. It's about taking that step back and kind of being in a mindful state. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So here's a scenario. All right. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm trying to get my business to 7 figures. Like what can I do to make sure I'm in the right vibration?
You're looking outside yourself, because you said do. So it's how do I get back to just being, right? And the thing is, you're tying it into an outcome, which that's not how this works. You have to just go. Let me see how I can explain this another way. So 7-figure, let's say you want to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. I always go through all the questions of why and all this, because we got to be authentic that that's you and that's what you really want. It's amazing sometimes when people go, yeah, I thought I wanted the 7-figure. I don't want the 7-figure. I just want to have fulfillment, have this and have that. I said, okay, I can work with you on that. That's easier, right? That's higher emotions. That's higher vibes. That's more authentic to the individual. So now I'm like, we can work off that. It's literally, getting into a space. You don't even have to think about being a 7-figure. See, a lot of times some people get like the law of attraction and The Secret. They're like, oh, think of yourself in the car and then how does it feel? And then what's the emotions that come? I'm not saying that's not right. Secret did a lot of good things. But what I share is that you're still having a trigger from the response. And what that means is you're saying still, if I have the car, here's how I can feel with that. And no, forget the car. How do you feel? I want you to be excited, happy, have love, joy, and compassion for no reason whatsoever. This is the 3-4-year-old mindset. They're happy. Like when I'm with my daughter, she's I just became a dad like almost 11 weeks ago. And one of the joys, I love seeing this. And I was a pediatric chiropractor, so I saw this in kids all the time, but to have my own daughter now and see this, I just love it. She will sit on our bed and she'll just look into the ceiling, look at us, the light fixture we have in there, and she'll laugh. She's not laughing yet, but she'll get all excited. She looks like she's running, and she puts a big smile on her face. She will do this until she gets tired. And I look and I go, this is what I'm trying to teach my clients. She has no reason. She has no reason to be happy. She's just being. And she's focusing on what's exciting. Look at a dog. A dog does the same thing. A dog only goes to whatever they're excited. I mean, there's a little bit of a trigger there, but they're always like, what's the next exciting thing that makes me feel happy? And they go look and they'll feel and they go. That may be not a great example, but the kid is. So it's one of those things where what I try to do to help entrepreneurs is forget all these things that you think or do or this or that or a trigger or this. Forget all that. I just want you to get in the state of whatever raises your vibe. And if you can't think of anything, think of the past. Like ever since I became a dad, I just imagine my daughter in my arms. And man, it just lights me up. And then what I do, and what I recommend to a lot of entrepreneurs, is then I take my daughter out of the equation and just immense in that feeling, because again, it's a thought and an emotion that's raising my vibe, that creates electromagnetic field, creates a stronger presence of what it is I want to create. Because you don't have to think about your vision every single day of the week. You don't have to think about what you want to achieve or your goal or whatever that is. You don't have to do that. As long as your intention is like, this is where I want to go with my life. Now your job is just to go ahead and make sure you keep your energy high and keep your vibe high. And when you can do that, you attract things faster. And sometimes it can be the craziest things that'll show up. And it's just knowing that when it shows up in your physical realm, then know that that's the law of manifestation coming in saying, yeah, you're aligned in the right vibration. Just keep doing it.
So it's that positive feeling that will attract these other things and put you in the right vibration.
Yeah. It's just getting into that high vibe and whatever that is. I mean, before I had my daughter, it was sports. I think of some great moments I had in sports where we're on the line in baseball, or it may have been, I made a diving catch and I threw out the guy at home for the winning run. And I just remember how I felt, that excitement I had. And then I just say, okay, that's the excitement I want to hone in on. I'm going to forget the trigger. The trigger was a sport event. And I just hone in on that feeling and just embrace it. And then I just see my life in the future being the same thing. Just this is the feeling that I want to encompass and have more of. When you do that, again, the reason why you don't want to have a trigger or a tie to something is because you're letting your mind construct what you think is best for you. Universe, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, it knows what's best. It sees all 360. So it knows all the perspectives. So I always tell people, like, you may want an orange in life, but the universe or God brought you an apple. At the end of the day, you still got a piece of fruit. It's just the apple was more purposeful for you. It was designed more for your greatest good. And when you can open up that way, this is why some people, I think Tony Robbins talked about this, you underestimate people, what they can do in 5 years versus over 1 year or something like that. But I've heard people say this before, and I can't remember exactly who it was, so I apologize. But it's like we put limits on ourselves of thinking, well, I want to be a 7-figure. Well, what if you were designed to be a 10-figure? Right? Or, and I've had clients like that where they're like, I want to be in the high multiple 6 figures. And I said, why put a limit on yourself? Well, I think that would be absolutely amazing. Okay. So then we're tied to outcomes. That's not how this works. We need to go back to, let's just get back to center here. Cause what if you're worth 7 figures, 8 figures? And I've had clients where they just would love to make like 300,000 a year. And when we work through this, all of a sudden they're like, I just want to be open to abundance. And I said, that's a little bit better. Don't put a number on it, because that's how your mind gets in the way. And then all of a sudden, in like 2 years, they hit 7 figures, and like, I can't believe this is happening. And I said, well, now you're creating more resistance because you don't believe it's happening what's in front of you. But you see how we're trained that way? I do the same thing. Something comes out of nowhere and I laugh, and I'm like, that is so freaking cool. Oh my God. I'm talking to my wife about it. And all of a sudden I'm like, I just can't believe that happened. She goes, seriously? I'm like, I'm conditioned too. I'm trying to break through this.
But that's a great
point. Does that
point.
make sense?
No, that's a great point. It makes total sense. And it's easy to limit yourself because so that it's better just to focus on the abundance, to start with the abundance and just kind of go from there. So you mentioned that you've got these crazy stories. What's like the craziest story that comes to mind of someone who's applied what you just said?
138% profit in 1 month and continued on for the rest of the year. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, if I had 138% profit change, been in business for 11 years, 138% profit in 1 month. And all it was just shifting, it tweaked a couple things. It wasn't nothing new. It wasn't anything different. One mindset shift, one break of limiting, and then I was like, and of course, fear was coming in. I'm like, just trust the process. Whatever you got to go through, you got to learn. Let's just trust the process and let's grow together with this. And she went all in and trusted it. And all of a sudden, Next thing you know, I get a report, and she's showing it to me, and I'm going, that's 138% profit. She goes, yeah. I said, okay, let's see how next month goes. 138% profit. And then it was 120 something and 140. And it came again, just that to me, that's one of the craziest things. I'm not going to go market and do like what you see in marketing practices, which I don't agree with. But like, if you get one great result like that, that means you can market that to other people and say you can do it too. And I'm like, that doesn't happen often. That's not true. I've had other clients recently, like things that came out of nowhere, just partnership deals that came out of nowhere to all of a sudden it helped them double their profits in a matter of 3 to 6 months. And some of them are more lucrative than others. So it's crazy what can show up in some of these ways. I've had people win money out of nowhere, or they wanted to do something and they felt like they needed something. And I just said, just get back to that feeling, and know it will all align. Next thing you know, it just happened. I've had people who've had, this may not be business related, but it was part of their personal life. They used it for their personal life, and they got something that was like $10,000, or I think it was a bike or something along those lines, and end up getting it for free, absolutely for free. And that's what they wanted. They were like, I want to get it for free. I've done it in my own life, just predicting when I wanted to get a pickup truck, and I wanted to be a fully loaded pickup truck and all the things and bells and whistles, but I wanted to get it for more than 13% off. And I only wanted to pay this much money and so forth. COVID hit. I said, let me go test the market just for fun. And I was going for an apple, and I ended up getting an orange. I wanted an F-150 Raptor, and I ended up getting a Dodge Ram Longhorn. But I hit all the marks. Got everything. I got it exactly the way I wanted it to. And so that's just some of the things. I mean, I can go on and on with more stories. I could tie it more to business and finances. I could talk about personal life. I mean, even in relationships, because I do a lot of holistic work. So it's what works, or universal. What works in one area of someone's life, it's going to apply to other areas of their life. And what's a problem in one area usually it shows up in other areas. And so sometimes when I'm working with a client that's, not really grasping it, or don't want to really, trust the process, I'll have to start pulling from other areas and go, in that relationship, you do this thing there. And they're like, yeah, I kind of see that. I'm like, you notice how that's also showing up in your business? Oh crap. Never saw that. And then we start to work from there.
Oh man. So let's talk about your book. It's Decoding the Matrix. What can people expect to get as takeaways as they read this?
Yeah, you get to understand what really the matrix is. You get to understand the conditioning of the mind, the subconscious mind. You learn that the matrix is all about, when you look at the matrix, it's all about the programming that happens that gives humanity a whole entire experience. And so from that perspective, it talks about the importance of our intention. It talks about the importance of what is your potential. How do you achieve it? I share some business, like what I share with my clients when it comes to vision work and so forth. And at the end, we talk about spiritual awakening, because when you're really tapping in and experiencing your potential, your energy and your vibration, your consciousness levels at such a high level that all of a sudden now you're on a spiritual awakening path, or you're accelerating it, and you start to create a ripple effect to allow others to do the same. And this is how we really transform and change the world.
Awesome. Ted, you were going to jump in? Okay. Good stuff. So, we got to get the book, Decoding the Matrix. We'll make sure everybody's got the links in the show notes, and we'll give you time at the end to promote it. But you're also host of the Mindful Expert podcast, and you've done 407 episodes. Congratulations.
Well, thank
Ted
you so
and I,
much.
we have some catching up to do.
407. Wow. That's great.
Labor of love, my friends. As you guys know, it's a labor of love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. I mean, what can people expect when they tune into your podcast?
Yeah, the mindful experiment is all about the mind, life. I interview people, almost half of it's interviews, the rest is all me. And just sharing mindsets, things that we can help elevate our consciousness, things to learn how to become more full in life. It's really a universal, broad message that I share in that realm. I mean, I've interviewed people from finances to money to business to entrepreneurship to how to be more intimate with your partner to relationship issues. I mean, because it's all fabrics of life. It's just looking at it from a different lens that we call relationship versus we call business, where we call money. Like I said earlier, everything crosses over everything. So what you do in one area of your life, you're going to do in other areas. And so it's one of those things to just help the listener to tune in and listen to something that can help in some way, shape, or form elevate their life and understand the infinite possibilities that are in front of them.
Awesome. No, I mean, I'm definitely going to be checking this out as well. I just think this is just a critical topic to success. And by the way, Dr. Vic, this is another one of those episodes. Like I have tons of other questions, but but I know you have stuff to do. So I'll keep them to myself. But no, this has been fantastic. And we're at the part of the program is called Write This Down. And this is where we each go around and leave at least one closing takeaway from today's show that we want the entrepreneurs to write down so they can level up. So Dr. Vic, the floor is yours. What should the people write down?
I got a couple of things here. So first, as we talked about imagination or vision, what you want to do is, what's the main vision of your life? Write that down. You can call this your eulogy. You can call this whatever. There's practices of this stuff. But what's the purpose of why you're here? Like really get deep in that stuff. This is stuff I work with my clients on week 1. And so it's the aspect, why is this so critical, is because we have to have some deeper substance that gives us inspiration, where then all of a sudden you don't need motivation anymore. You are inspired to live your life every single day. It's going to keep your vibe high. Like mine is to raise the consciousness levels of every individual I come in contact with so they can rediscover the greatness of who they are. Right. I can shorten that into 9 words, but that's the full extent of everything that I do aligns with that. So having that vision, it deepens your purpose. And the reason why that is also important is step number 2 then is any actions that you take, no matter what you're going to put your energy into and focus on, if it doesn't align with that vision, do not do it. Because what you're going to do is you're going to create incongruences, you're going to create resistance, and you're going to wonder why you're not getting to the level of your life where we want to get to. We call this creating the alignment of life. This is aligning your life with the universe, or aligning your mind with your vision. There's a couple terms I interchange there. And then the third thing is to sit back and trust and know that you are to sit back and trust. And if you're getting anxious, scared, worried, fear, or whatever, take some deep breaths, do some breath work. There's a ton of, you can go research breath work. There's now Google has, at least 15 different ones out there. So pick one, have fun with it so you can reset your nervous system. So that way you don't get so caught up into like, are you sure this is going to work? Because if you listen to a lot of people, Steve Harvey talks about this. It's in the Bible. Proverbs 29:18 states, people without a vision will perish. And this is one of the biggest things that I saw in my own career, spirituality, looking at studying different religions, studying the mind, studying hermetic principles and all these other stuff. That vision was always there. It was all about the vision first, right? We don't see to believe, we believe to see. The believing comes from a vision within. And so vision, I forgot my number 2 already. Make sure alignment in the actions that you choose to do align with that main vision, and then have the faith within. And the last part, have fun with this. Go back to being a kid. That's a lot of the stuff I teach, is get back to being a kid, because kids are the masters of the universe. It's unfortunate that it's just the way the game is. We as adults, I don't want to say tarnish, that's a harsh word. But we cloud them a little bit based on our own experiences. We do that in our genetic. It happens genetically, whether you pass that down genetically anyhow. But it's one of those things where, going back to that pureness and going back to remembering who you are is the key behind it. So those 3 things are one of the most powerful things. It may sound simple, but if you really do the work and get into it, you can see how much it'll take control and help you in your life.
No, those are great comments. And I mean, I think the vision is the key. And really being able to align your decision and actions from that will help you take that next step. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. All right, Ted.
How do I follow that? How do I follow that? Again, he didn't leave any meat on the bone. Here. So, I just keep it really simple. I say, write this down. I think you determine your ceiling. Right? I mean, if you want to make it so your ceiling is really high or really low, you determine that. Right? You determine that, right? I mean, outside of your first and foremost, you have your faith, right? If you talked about that from a spiritual perspective, and the rest of it is on you. No one else can control whether you're able to, accomplish whatever it is that you set your mind out to do. So, you determine if that ceiling is going to be high or low. you just go for it, right? Just go for it. Something that Eric had we had talked about this morning. Eric had at the show earlier when we talked about even if, right? Even if you if you don't achieve that, then you got a chance to go back up. As long as you're living, you still get to go back up to continue going up to bat, right? So until the clock totally goes to all zeros, you still have a chance to go out there and and achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, especially yourself. Don't let yourself tell you can't do it.
Sometimes that's the biggest challenge, right?
Right. They're trying to hold me back. Well, no, you might be the man that's trying to hold yourself back.
You or they.
That's it. Yeah. They don't want me to make it.
No, it's easy for us to put limits on ourselves. And I think those are great comments. And mine kind of goes back to my write this down. Goes back to what we talked about earlier. We talked about the 4-minute mile and all these things everybody said couldn't be done, and all of a sudden somebody does it. Now everybody does it. So the big takeaway, we've said it, but it bears repeating, is that it has to be doable if somebody's done it. Right? It has to be doable. That's just that's the law of science. If somebody's done something, you can't say it's impossible. And so that's the key. If somebody has done it, and the thing is that there's always someone who has the same or worse challenge that you have that's making it happen. So like if you have one child and you're saying, well, I have this child and it's limiting me from really taking this to the next level, there's somebody out there with 2 children. There's people out there with 2 children that don't have don't have a support system. They're in a foreign town. They don't know anybody, and they're making it happen. So I think you have to think about that. And I see so many examples of this play out. So we talked about counter examples earlier. So just know there is a counter example for your situation, no matter what that is. Man, I told you, this is one of those episodes I could just talk on and on about. But we'll let Vic go on with his day here. So Vic, once again, Dr. Vic, thank you for what you've shared. What's the best way for people to connect with you, to get in contact with you, and to get your book?
Thank you for that. My hub is my website. It's empoweryourreality.com. You can, there's some free resources there. I share a little small ebook on the power of visualization. My podcast you can find on there. If what I shared resonated with you as an entrepreneur and you're like, oh my goodness, I love to learn more and connect, I do a free 30-minute call. So we can jump on, talk about what some of the challenges, what are the dreams you want to achieve, or what is it that you're facing at this time. And I give a couple action steps at the end. And then if I know I can help you, I'll share what I do and how I can do that. Last but not least, if you want to catch me on social media, bottom left corner of my website, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok is where I play. Reach out if you have any questions. I love hearing from people. And then my book's available anywhere online. Primary hub is Amazon, but you can go anywhere to find it. It's in the ebook, or Kindle, it's in paperback, and also Audible.
Oh, that's great. Vic, you don't want to give our listeners your home number?
Not today,
Not
I gotta
today.
feel. I just met you guys today,
That's
I don't
right.
know. I gotta feel your vibe a little bit more.
That's right. We've yet to have any of our guests ever give out their home number. So
Candace said nobody ever takes us up on that. It's the craziest thing.
Right. There will be a first, I promise.
Right.
Well, this has been a fantastic episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for those of you watching this, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
That's right. Don't keep
share the show, people.
Don't keep Dr. Vic to yourself. Don't keep him a secret. Make sure you're sharing this all over the place. And also don't forget that you can also catch us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or any of those other places that you like to consume content. Again, thanks to Dr. Vic Manzo. That is our show for the week. And until next time, have a great one.